Hi, and welcome to the So She Did podcast, the place to be for inspiration, empowerment, and creating the life you love. And today, I have a very special guest. Her name is Jackie Walther, and she is a realtor for the Property Alliance, former co owner of the Square Meal. She also teaches yoga, works at a winery on occasion, and Jackie's a jack of all trades. Like Jackie is the Jackie of all trades. How about that? Thought about that on the spot. How about that?
I
She is
like that.
brilliant. She is beautiful, and she is so sweet. And I am so happy to have you on the show, Jackie. I'm so
Thank you so
happy.
much. I really am honored that you asked me to join you on the show. Thank you.
No problem. I when I was thinking of people like guests to have on the show, like you were one of the first people that I thought of. I was like, Jackie is like she's doing so much and she's like literally living her best life. So I was like, I have to ask her to be on the show. And I'm so happy that you're my first guest. This is episode 1. Thank you for joining me and tuning in. So we're going to get to know Jackie a little better. So just tell me a little bit about yourself, Jackie.
Well, I am 39 years old, married, no kids. I have 2 dogs, and currently I'm a realtor. I just came on full time. I used to be a school teacher for about 13 years, and 10 of those years was in public school in Pennsauken. I was a special ed teacher. I left that in 2018. Back in 2013, my husband and I started to plan our business called the Square Meal, and we worked to get that started. We did a few different things before we got it into a brick and mortar. So we were running a snack stand in 2014 and 2015, and then in 2016 we rented a kitchen at the factory building. And then finally in 2017, we got a storefront in Oakland, New Jersey, where we had a nice business for about 3.5 years. And then we shut it down with this pandemic that just happened. Well, that's still happening. We closed our doors in July. And in the meantime, I've been amping up my real estate business. So now that's where we're at. So I'm doing the real estate. My husband is working. Well, right now he's working with some guys that own a brewery, and he's helping them do construction on that, and he does side work. But yeah, so basically my life really feels great because I'm just doing what I like to do.
I think that that's so amazing. And before we started recording, Jackie and I were talking about just being happy with what you do in life. And I know that you were a teacher, and then you started the Square Meal with Dan, and then you started doing the real estate as well. Just talk about the transition from being a school teacher and having that, quote unquote standard 9 to 5 type of job, and then transitioning into having your own business, your own restaurant. First of all, the Square Mill was amazing, the best huevos rancheros I've ever had. And I still say that to this day,
That's
the
awesome.
best that I have ever had. Dan is such an excellent cook. Her husband is amazing at cooking. I will definitely say that. So let's talk about the transition from working into going into entrepreneurship and now into real estate.
So it was tough, back in 2013 when I guess it was like a few things started happening. My husband wasn't happy with his job. He was working as an electrician, working, and he was going to school, working to get his license, and he didn't really love working in the trade in the construction industry. It just wasn't his vibe,
Yeah.
being on a job site like that all the time. And he was such a talented cook, so creative. Myself, I started to realize that I didn't want to be a career teacher forever. I just started to feel like a little bit stuck.
Yeah.
I actually then I went back to school to get my school counseling degree. I got my master's like during this time of wondering, can I be a teacher for 25 years? Well, let me try. I'll be a school counselor, and that'll at least give me a change in the district.
Wow.
So yeah, I did get my master's in counseling, and And then I realized, like, when we started planning a square meal, it was like a year of planning on paper and trying to figure out how much it would cost, and meeting with accountants and looking at spots, you know, meeting with landlords and applying for loans and getting denied, and all this stuff. So there was a few things that we realized in the process. For one, I realized that I just didn't want to be in the school system in general. It wasn't necessarily being a classroom teacher, because when I learned like counseling skills, I was applying them in the classroom anyway. And I watched the school counselors in the school system, and it's a shame because when you go to school to be a counselor, the ideal is like you can really nurture these kids and teach them coping
Mhm.
skills and everything. And the reality is you're one person for like 400 or 500 kids, and you're just
Yeah.
putting out fires and in crisis mode all day. So I'm like, yeah, I really don't want to be a school counselor, because I don't feel like I would be as effective um, as I am in this small special ed classroom with 10 kids, you know, and like really developing relationship. So that I just kind of use the skill set to help me like with my real estate clients. Like, you're kind of a counselor too, you know? So, so then, all right, where was that? Kind of, okay. So then we realized when we were hitting a bunch of roadblocks with Square Meal and not getting loans, we didn't have experience. Our debt to income ratio was way off. It was like I had an epiphany that we were overpaying for our life, and we were never going to be able to make a move if we were paying this high mortgage payment and just living paycheck to paycheck. So I decided that we needed to be landlords. Actually, we were playing Monopoly with our friends in Lake Tahoe, and I was winning. And I'm like, you know what? You got to be the one to collect the rent. Like, that's what we have to do. So we literally got back home from that trip. This was in 2014, in the beginning of the year, maybe 2015. I have to go like look at, I have to think about that, but not right now. Anyway, we put our house up on the market, tried to sell it. It wasn't selling because the market wasn't that hot at the time. And so we ended up renting it out and to cover just the mortgage. And then we stayed with our friend for a whole year. And during that process, we were just researching, looking for a good deal on the house. My realtor was an awesome guy, and he was like really became a mentor to me and Dan. And I was always picking his brain, like, what's it like doing this? Like, I think I really like doing this, you know? And he's like, Jack, you should just get your real estate license. So actually, I ended up going to real estate school in 2016. And I got my real estate license, and then we closed on a duplex at the end of 2016. So we ended up buying a duplex, and it was a really good deal. So we rent out the upstairs, and that basically pays our living costs. So we
Wow.
basically are living for free. Yeah. And that was like a big part of our, you know, making money moves for the business, because if all else fails, at least we know that we have a roof over our heads, and
Exactly.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was a big part of it, was the housing situation. And then, so then we got our house in at the end of 2016 and signed a lease on the Square Meal, like within 3 days of one another. It was really
Wow.
crazy. Yeah. So we had a lot of work to do, you know, and Square Meal became a really great staple in the community. And we had a relationship with the brewery down the street, so people would go and have beers, and then we would be running the food down there. And you know, there was like a dance studio with kids. They would be dancing, and their moms would like come over and get food. So it was like really cool being part of the community like that.
Yeah.
And now we never really made a profit, to be honest, with Square Meal. It was always like, we are going to make a profit one day, but it was a values-based business, you know, like, we're doing the right thing. We're supporting local farmers. We're non-GMO, you know, we're giving people quality ingredients. And so, yeah, we're not really turning a profit, but that's not why we went into the business. So it was
Yeah.
kind of like, I guess people would think we were crazy because you go into business to make money. But that's why we were pretty quick to close it down during the pandemic when we started to, we were putting too much on the credit card. It was like, all right, this week's worth of inventory going on a credit card, like $700 here, $700 there, adds up really quick.
Yeah.
And when we didn't know that what was going to happen, we were like, we're going to have to just shut it down, And we actually were already planning our exit strategy. We had said we'll give it 5 years brick and mortar, our hopes were to get it to a point where it actually either made money or was like at least breaking even, like at least out of the red. And then to have somebody take it over, like not necessarily sell them the business, but like allow them to start their dream. You know what I mean? And that didn't happen, but that's okay. But in the meantime, while we were in that space from 2017 till July of 2020, I started doing real estate deals, I guess, summertime of 2017. So I had my license for a whole year before I did my first deal. Once we got established in Square Meal and I had the summer off from school, I was like, okay, now I can do this. So that's when I just basically put an announcement out there on Facebook video. I said, hey guys, I got my real estate license, hit me up.
And I love that about you. I always notice like your Facebook videos. If anything's big and happening and you're like, let me just go live on Facebook.
Yeah.
But the response that you get is so amazing. And I think that a lot of that has to do with the community that you've built around yourself. Like going back to what you said about the Square Meal, how the big thing about being there was the actual community. I think that is so important because community is important. And I know that that's a big thing for you, connecting people and having a good community of people around you. So talk a little bit about that, why community is so important, not just for you, but just for anyone.
It's just like, you have your support, you have an idea of what you want your life to look like and what kind of person you want to be and what kind of values you uphold for yourself. And you just like connect with people that have those similar interests and values, and you guys can really push each other farther. I connect with, well, even like when I met you and Melissa, you know what I mean? Like you guys were right away, hey, come join us for this, come join us for that. And it was like, wow, these ladies are awesome. They're doing a thing, and here we are. It's really great. And the yoga community, I love that. My boot camp community, I'm part of a boot camp and we do outside workouts, and I'm just so grateful to have a group of people that, on Facebook, we're talking like, hey, I did my run. It wasn't my best run, but, just like little camaraderie like that. Yeah. And now I'm getting into this ice bath stuff. I don't know if you've seen that.
Girl, I see it on Facebook and I commented and I was like, I have to try it. No, I think I inboxed you and you're like, yes. And I got cold feet when you were like, yes, come do it. I was like, I don't know. It looks insane. So let's just go off topic really fast. Yeah. What is it called and what is it about, this ice bath thing?
Yeah, so basically it's called Wim Hof method, and Wim Hof is a man from the Netherlands who basically popularized this whole thing of cold exposure. So you do this breath work that gets your body from, you basically hacking into your nervous system, where you do this breathing where you hyperventilate and then you hold your breath and you do several rounds of that, and you're turning your, you're going from your sympathetic, well, whatever is fight or flight, you go into fight or flight, and then you calm yourself down. Fight or flight, calm yourself down. Fight or flight, calm yourself down. So you do several rounds of that, and then you just kind of lay there and you get this euphoric feeling. And then the trainers, they coach you into this ice bath. So the idea is you just were able to hack into your nervous system and get out of that fight or flight. So as soon as you sit in that ice, first thing is you get right into fight or flight. Of course, you're like, I'm going to die. And then because you just did that breath work, your body is already has that muscle memory to get yourself back into the breathing, back into calming down. And so it's good for hypertension. It's good for circulation. It's good for inflammation.
Wow.
Yeah, and immunity. The breath work really increases the alkalinity in your body.
Mm.
And then when you get into the ice, it's good because you're making you're like toughening your defenses against the cold. So even if you take cold showers, like the first thing you do when you are in the cold water, you're like, but if you can train yourself not to have that reaction and not to shiver and to just breathe through it, then you're increasing your adaptability as a human being.
Wow.
It's really cool. It was really cool. And so now my girls and I, who are like, oh, we drank the Kool-Aid, you know, and so we're getting together often. You probably see my picture, like in lakes and
Yes.
rivers and anywhere where there's cold water out in nature. We're like, let's go. So this Saturday, if you want to join us,
Oh, goodness.
we're heading down to Corson's Inlet, which is right near Ocean City. And we're going to go in and you're just in there for like 3 minutes, 4 minutes. And then you get out and we do this little tribal dance thing that gets your body heated back up. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And
That
you
sounds cool.
yeah, and you could hike like when we do it out in nature, we'll go places where you're hiking in, so you're already warm when you get there, and then you're hiking back out, so then that warms your body back up again.
Yeah, that
Yeah, it
that sounds
helps.
pretty cool. I don't know. I'm gonna have to get my feet wet on that one
Yeah,
before
right.
I'm jumping in the lake and stuff like that. I'll start with the little tubs that you guys get in. I'll start with
Yeah,
that first.
or start with a cold shower.
Yeah, yes. How about we do that? I'll start with a cold shower first. Okay. Back to the topic. I have a good question for you.
Mhm.
So what has been your biggest failure in the past year, and how did you overcome it?
Well, I mean, that's kind of an easy one because we closed our business, went out of business. And, a lot of people would consider that a failure.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would say that, yeah, it is, but I'm kind of excited about it because, you read all those stats about the famous people that had all these setbacks and failures, and you're like, oh, wow, like Oprah, that's awesome, and seriously. So I've got about $32,000 in business debt that I need to pay off.
Yeah.
And I've got myself a plan of how it's going to get paid off. And I plan on tackling that by like having it gone by March or April of
Yes.
2021, because like I said, our expenses are covered with the housing. So now I'm getting these real estate checks and I'm just paying down the business debt. And I figure, you know what? Then once I pay that down, I'll be on a good, roll with the real estate. And then it's just making moves from there and stacking cash.
Wow. That's such a good plan. That's such a good plan, especially with paying down debt. I'm really big on budgeting and paying off debt and having no debt. I'm a couple thousand away from having no debt other than our house. So um I definitely I'm on board with you with that. And I think that
Yeah.
that's amazing. And I think that the plan that you and Dan executed was great in order to get to where you are now, because a lot of people look at the position you're in with you buying the duplex, the renters are paying the mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
These are things that people aspire to achieve, and you're there already. So
Yeah.
people look at you and they'll say, I want to join Jackie's community. I
Yeah.
want to learn from Jackie and see what she has going on. So what are some ways that you help people connect, or that you're able to connect with people on a deeper level than just surface level, as far as like just being their realtor or just being their yoga instructor? How are you able to really connect with people and connect people to other people?
Well, I would say, I don't know. I just feel like that's my it's my role in it's my purpose is to be a connector. And I guess a lot of it does have to do with on the surface, people are always coming to me like, "Hey, do you know somebody that can blank?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I got a guy."
I got a guy.
Yeah, exactly. But even these guys, so I, did the ice bath workshop for the first time in July, and I've been like introducing them to a lot of different people that can help them have host workshops or have workshops. And they're having their first retreat coming up next weekend, and me and my girlfriends are going. It's in Maine, and I'm really excited about that. And I guess we've just been kind of uh connecting, like this community, this ice women community. It seems to be a lot of my friends that were all like trying not to really drink as much anymore, and so much of the socializing for so long in our lives has been like, oh, let's get together and have happy hour, let's get together and have this, let's get together and have that. And now it's like, well, let's get together and go hike in the woods and jump in the cold water. And that's a thrill, or let's get together and, just go for a regular hike, or let's get together and, have tea or whatever. And I think that's like a good example of a deeper level of connection and doing that. And also, I mean,
I think you putting yourself out there to try new things, because it's a pattern, and like it's a pattern for you with being a teacher, then square meal, then the realtor, then yoga. You work at the vineyard sometimes. You do the ice bath thing, like all of these different things that you're willing to try. You open yourself up to new things, which means you open yourself up to new people.
Right.
And that's one of the things that I really appreciate about you, that you're not scared to try new things. You didn't know anything about real estate, but you're like, wait, that looks like fun. I think I might be good at that. And like you said, you feel like your purpose is being a connector and connecting people. And I love that, because there are so many different people that would not know each other, wouldn't have the relationships that they do if it wasn't for you introducing them to each other. So I think the fact that you're willing to try new things, I think that that's amazing. And that is a very good quality to have. And slowly but surely I'm starting to do the same thing, because I feel like that is what's starting to make me really, really happy and brings me so much joy. It's just to try things that I've always wanted to do, but I felt underqualified to do, or I felt like it would just be crazy, like the ice bath thing. It's still in my head a little bit. I'm like, that's insane, but I really feel a tug to give it a try.
Yeah.
So I think that that's amazing.
So hey, Shay, wait, hang on. Do you mind if I let my dogs in real quick?
No, go ahead.
Apologize. Okay. All right.
So what's some advice that you would give to someone who wants to pursue entrepreneurship?
I would say, definitely go for it. Map out a plan, number one, because that was really what helped us and saved us at the same time, especially like I said, with the whole duplex thing. People are going to say, no, you can't do that, or are you crazy? You've got a great job. But that's because they might be scared to take a risk themselves. And if you know you're doing the right thing, if you know that you're doing the right thing, and you keep trying to do the right thing, then things are going to work out in one way or the other. And it might be a struggle, but eventually it's going to come around.
Yeah, I definitely believe that what you put out is what you get back. And I know that that's something that both you and I have dealt with the start of our entrepreneurial journey, is people projecting their own fears onto us, saying like, why would you, like you said, like, why would you leave that good job and all this other stuff? And it's like, well, I feel like that this is what I should be doing now, because life is a journey. It's not just, there's so many chapters in your book of life. And I feel like, you teaching was a chapter, Square Meal was a chapter, real estate right now is a chapter, doing the yoga is a chapter. You never know where you're going to be in 2021, 2022. But the fact that you're so open to receiving whatever it is that comes your way, I think that's what is always helping you come out on top. And
Yeah.
I think that that's amazing.
You know what's interesting? When we were in Square Meal and, always working so much and not really making money with it, it didn't feel like, it didn't feel daunting. It didn't feel like, oh, we're struggling.
Yeah.
It was like we always had what we needed. And we both always knew that this was building towards something else. And now I'm really starting to see it pay out in the immediate, because so many of when I have a real estate deal closed, we write down where the lead came from.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say like 80% of my leads are coming from people I met through Square Meal.
Wow.
So, you never know what one thing's going to lead to another.
Exactly. I think
Yeah.
that's great. And before we go, I have one question, and this is a question that I ask all of my guests. Where do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years?
Okay, so in 3 to 5 years, I see our house that I'm sitting in right now will be like really hooked up and renovated. Cause that was one of the things, like we got this house so cheap because it's like dated from the 60s with wallpaper and an old kitchen and an old bathroom, but that's okay because you make sacrifices,
Exactly.
So I think, well, our house will be updated. It'll look really sharp. And we'll still be living here since we don't have kids. We can still live small and not have a big house. And we'll have started our rental portfolio. So right now, as I pay down this debt, then the next thing is saving. And then when this real estate market turns around, because right now it's a seller's market, but once the foreclosures hit, unfortunately, people, banks are going to be putting those houses out there. But that's going to be opportunity for people. And that's when my husband and I want to get started in buying properties to rent and be like really decent landlords and not slumlords, because like
yeah,
based. And then also do some flips too to get the income, keep the income rolling.
that's
But
awesome.
but we still want to have our life. Like I see people that are running themselves ragged and making a whole lot of money. And it's like, okay, but where's the quality of life there? If you can't relax and give time to yourself and your loved ones,
Exactly.
then why?
Yeah.
Right?
What's the
So,
point?
yeah,
Yeah, I
stay
definitely get that.
balanced.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
how can people get in touch with you on social media, as far as real estate or any other type of business that you have going?
So basically my personal page is where I do most of my business through anyway. And so that's Jackie Walther, JackieWalther. And the same for Instagram.
Okay, and I will definitely have her social media and possibly her phone number for real
Oh
estate
yeah.
down below. I'll have it in the show notes. Jackie, thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Shay. It was great talking to you.